Good everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today I'm going to talk about another trigger framework, and this is the last one I'm going to cover as a part of the trigger framework series. That is the Rflib. So this specific framework, right? It contains not only the trigger aspect to it, but mostly around the logging. So this is mostly talked about on the logging space. So if you ever heard about the RFlib, you must be thinking, oh yeah, why is this guy talking about this as a trigger framework? Well, it's supposed to be a logging framework. You're right. I mean, it does the logging. It does the logging in a very efficient way. I'm a big fan of this framework when it comes to logging. That being said, you can also use it as a part of a trigger framework, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate today. So this is the GitHub page. I'll put the link in the description below. So it's the main contributor is Jay Fisher, Jonas Fisher, and so he wrote this library, presume. And so these are the key features if you look at it. Like I said, I'll put the link in the description below. Please go through it. And the most important thing is just the wiki aspect of it. So that's the documentation. So if you go to documentation, it will take you to the documentation, how it looks like, and you can go through, each specific module if you're interested, right? So today it's only about trigger framework. I'm not going to talk about the logger aspect, right? So that's a separate topic. Okay, now why do you want this trigger framework, right? So like I said, the framework plays a very important role when you wanted to make your code readable and avoid code smell, right? And bring consistency among development teams so that they stick to a common design standard. That's why we often talk about the framework. That's why the trigger frameworks plays a very important role, and this framework is not an exception to that rule as well. Okay, so the first thing first. Okay, so what are you going to do? So you have to install this package, right? So you go to deploy to Salesforce, it will install it. I've already installed. So what I'm going to do, I've already built a trigger framework for a contact, and I'm going to demonstrate how it looks like. Okay, so let me jump into my org. Okay, and go to the object manager, and so we'll do to contact. Yeah, and we'll go to the contact here. And I'm just going to go to trigger. Gonna go to trigger, and don't worry about this TD. That's because I've installed a nonprofit version, so it automatically installed the handler. So I don't use nonprofit unless you really work on nonprofit stuff. So so I've installed as a part of my demonstration, which I've done. And so yeah, okay. So go to trigger, and as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so you got the trigger. Uh, Trigger name on contact, and you just put all kind of before insert, before update, pretty much everything. And this is a code, right? Rflib underscore trigger manager dot dispatch, and then you're passing the contact dot s object. That's all you have to do, right? Because it's like you're doing a dependency injection, okay? So you're using this dispatcher to connect to a contact object, okay? And now what do you have to do, right? To make this trigger run, you have to create a handler. Okay, when you create a handler, this trigger manager.dispatch will somehow able to figure out. I'm saying the word somehow because I don't want it to get into the nitty gritty aspect of the trigger manager dispatch stuff, right? So I'm just saying it figures out behind the scene that which handler to use and how to use. Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? So it uses dependency injection, and it hooks up your right code to be triggered when a contact get created, okay, or updated or deleted. Okay, so now how the handler looks like, right? It's pretty straightforward. So this is why I create a contact Rflib, right? It implements the Rflib trigger handler. So if you wanted to work with this Rflib, you have to, or especially in the trigger aspect, you have to create a class, okay, and implement Rflib trigger handler, okay. That's very important. And once you do that, you got to implement its two methods. One is to run, and the other one is the on consecutive run. So don't worry about on consecutive run for now. Right. So run is where all the magic happens. Okay. So you got arg operation dot args or operation system dot trigger operation before insert, right? And you can say after insert. So what I'm doing is that when a contact is getting created, and if for some reason if you have not selected a title, it will put a data architect to a title. Pretty straightforward. This is good enough for demonstration. Okay. Now the thing is that it will not work just by writing a code. You have to go to the custom metadata to configure it. That's where things get very much more exciting. So I hope this is pretty clear. The only one drawback I find, right? I don't like this kind of code to do if arg operation dot system, ecosystem dot trigger operation dot before or after insert. I prefer a method based. But that being said, right, this trigger, framework is pretty good because it comes with a logger, and the logger part is very important in my opinion, especially if you're doing integration. So I mean, the plus point for this framework is a logger, but along with that, it does encourage you to use its trigger framework. So that's the reason why I decided to cover this, specifically the trigger. Okay, sorry, I digress. So, but it's important discussion at the same time. So, okay, go to setup, go to custom metadata. Now, I hope everyone knows how to go to setup, right? I mean, just go to the scarecrow icon and go to setup, right? It takes you to setup. I mean, I hope you guys know. I talked about zillions of times. So custom data type, just go to custom data type. It's just pretty slow. Okay, so look for something called trigger configuration. Okay, so I go to trigger configuration. So when you install the package, right, these things get installed automatically. Okay, you don't have to worry about it. So now, but you have to add. So now, what happens, right? Now you created a trigger, right, and you create a handler. Now, if you wanted to run it, it will not work the way you want to run because you have to add that thing to the trigger configuration. This is where it's this specific framework is more configurable, right? If you're an admin, you can switch off your trigger. Is especially when you're doing a data load, right? That's where the bypass framework comes in the picture. I always talk about the bypass framework because I've seen a lot of scenario where a customer acquires another you know organization and they have another Salesforce org. They wanted to bring the data to this current Salesforce org to make it as a single source of truth. So when they start bringing the data on, that's where the things started going rogue because of the triggers behind the scene. So the only option most of the time I've seen, okay, they go to this the custom settings. They create a custom settings of checkbox, right? And then inside the trigger, they often say, if checkbox is unticked, then do this. If it's unticked, then continue, then return, right? So, which is okay. I mean, which is it's better than nothing, to be honest. But that's not really a great approach. So that's why these frameworks are very handy. Okay, so I go to manage configuration here, and so as you can see, I put my trigger contact trigger here. So I go to here. So this is where I put. So a label, you can put whatever meaningful label you want, and trigger configuration the same, meaningful name, and class name. This is what I've created. So this one, okay, and then the object, the contact, active, true, and event, right? So if I do, so what event you're after? Okay, so I'm after before insert. So you can only execute before update, you can execute before delete, and this is the order of execution. So now order is important, exactly what I talked about when I talked about nonprofit. If you have a three handler, so you can decide which one to fire first, which is pretty important. Exception behavior about transaction, which is like an apex behavior. If an exception happens, it will roll back. But that being so, what happens is that if you set this behavior, okay, so when an exception happens, it will roll back all the other trigger handler. Okay, so now if you don't want that, if you only wanted to worry about this one, okay, so then you can always choose the catch exception. So this is a very interesting aspect. But that being said, I personally believe, right, most of the scenarios I've seen, if the exception happens, right, most of the time it's better to roll back. but that again, case by case. Okay, don't take my word for granted and say, okay, this guy is saying, all right, it shouldn't be rolling back. It should always be rollback. But I'm saying based on your business requirement. Okay, but most of the time I've seen that the rollback is a preferred option. Okay, all right. So I've added this, and so let's go and create a trigger. Sorry, a contact. And this is a pretty short lecture today because I wanted to rant about this thing, that thing, just to put my stuff out. That's to give you a glimpse of how to use it. That's pretty much what I'm after, so that you can, if you're after, you can start playing with it and get started. So that's my main video's intention, is to give you guys head start, right? If you are, because I like to watch videos and to to learn stuff, right? I don't mind reading stuff, but people, like someone to teach them, right? Show them how to do, right? To treat them nice, right? That's what I like. I like to be spoiled. I'm not saying I'm a brat, but I'm just okay. All right, all right. So now what I'm going to do, I am not going to put anything other than these two stuff, and I'm going to save it and go to details, and you can see the data architect. That's pretty much we have here, right? So that's the pretty much the thing I want to talk about, right? So this is all I want to talk about in today's episode. Just a few announcements to make, few updates to make. I think I know that guys, people have been asking me about my integration. When I'm be releasing the integration architect certification module? Well, it's still in the progress, right? Because the thing is that there are a lot of content to cover. Okay, it's not that I can't just put out a few things and expect you to figure out yourself. That's not what I wanted to do, right? I mean, I wanted to put a great content out there. I'm also going to talk about MuleSoft in my, although from an exam point of view, you don't really have to know MuleSoft, but it's good to know, right, how Omni Studio works. You might get a scenario in your real integration um, life, right? Architect life, right? Like say, oh, okay, we have this requirement, we have this MuleSoft. Do you know how to connect? If you say, oh, I haven't seen this, that's not a good look, right? So that's why I try to bring a different aspects to it. It's going to be a pretty long, it's going to be bloody long course, right? I mean, I can't help it because this is what Salesforce expects you to know, and I have to cover those, right? Data governance is going to take long, and then you have to talk about data volumes, you have to talk about integration design parent, external services, Salesforce, Connect, how to configure it and how to custom adapter. All those things takes time, right? So, it's good to know, right? So just an update, it's in progress. I will release it ASAP, okay? I'm targeting by first week of August. That's an optimistic approach. I will see how it goes. Once that's done, my next target is to release the work on integration, identity certification, right? And because I'm planning to cover pretty much the certification related to architecture space, right? And so that I can help you guys become a CTA. That's my main goal, right? And we're gonna do this journey together, right? To know different things. I'm gonna talk about clouds too eventually, because you need to know how Azure works, AWS works, because to become a CTA, it's not enough that you only know Salesforce. You need to know from a solution architecture perspective. I got a lot of experience in solution architecture space, so I'm gonna bring that thing, and of course the coding as well, right? Right. So thank you for listening, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Adios.